We're here in my temporary indoor studio. I don't typically do a lot of indoor shooting, but I needed somewhere to sort of test my setup for some of the outdoor shoots that we have planned for this year. We're in a place where the weather gets down to about minus 30 on bad days, so the undeveloped basement has sort of been turned into my makeshift studio. I needed a power pack or a way to get my Profoto gear out into the field, I looked at using generators. We have a 2,000 watt Honda generator, which works very well for the guys who want to use that. There's situations where we can't bring a generator onto a site, either because of noise or, quite frankly, we're just trying to get a shot where we're not supposed to be. So we thought maybe we can use a couple of units and power these systems, independently with a pack for each head. Hey, go big or go home. So we'll just briefly go over some of the parts that we used in this build. You're going to need an inverter for sure. That's going to give you the conversion from DC battery power into basically wall socket power. It's a little bit more complicated, but bear with us. You're going to need a battery as well. You can put 2 or more if you really need sort of the battery punch. Again, that's going to be a subject we're going to touch on. You need your basic tools for hooking them together. You're going to need a clamp meter as well. That's going to be one of the things that you're going to want to get an idea of what inverter and what battery you're going to want. And this is the part that I found all of the DIY videos lacked in providing information on. So the reason we got the clamp meter here is we're going to basically measure the load in amps that the lights are drawing from our AC circuit. We want to know that because the inverters are rated for watts, and also they have an amp draw when they pull juice out of the battery and convert it into your AC current on the other end. So it comes out of the battery into the inverter and comes out those slots more or less in a clean power state. But without knowing exactly how much we need, we can't really size this accordingly. So there's a lot of systems that have 150 watt inverters, 300 watt inverters, 600 watt inverters, 1,000 watts all the way up. And this will kind of help you in gauging exactly what size of an inverter and a battery that you're going to need to drive it. So I want to stress the fact that you should get an AC isolator and not cut an extension cord like this. I did it because I'm careful and somewhat know what I'm doing. If you decide to cut into one of these cables, be very careful because you can end up dead very quickly. So the reason we want to do that and we want to isolate the current is because AC current is alternating. It will cancel itself out on the 2 wires. As you're noticing there, we're getting absolutely no reading off of this line, which is this is feeding a Profoto D1 500. But if we isolate those lines, we're going to see we got 2.2 amps coming through that line. That is with a modeling light on. So we've got the modeling light turned off on this thing, and I just want to show you what they're talking about in bat mode for these Profotos. It's just basically not using the modeling light. It's going to use 300 watts of juice while it's on, and you're really not going to want to use that on your portable power. But let's fire this off again. So we got over 8 amps of draw plugged into the wall with the modeling light on, and these are at full power, 500 watt D1s. 5.9, 6 amps. So it's safe to say we got about 6 amps coming off of this. Yeah, for the guys who are measuring this out using watt seconds, please stop. You have no idea what you're talking about, and these lights do not require exactly what you think they're going to pull. Using the watt seconds as a measurement on what these lights pull is going to end you up having a system that isn't going to serve you very well. So one of these lights, for argument's sake, we're going to say is 6 amps, and we will continue building from that point. So now we want to measure the load that this inverter pulls off of the battery. And that's important because we need to size a battery that can actually give it the amps it's asking for when this thing actually recycles. So this is with one light again. So you'll see it's about 13 amps there with one light plugged in. So we're going to plug the second light in, and we're going to see how this inverter works with the second light added. So this is two lights plugged into the inverter, and we'll just show you over here. We've got 12.7 volts. We're looking good here. No real draw from the inverter side, but we'll look here. You know, we're hanging out around 1/4 of an amp to 1/3 of an amp, so we're going to hit both lights. And as you notice, it goes right up and it peaks as the capacitors in the light are charging, and then drops right back down. So for argument's sake, we're going to say 14.5 amp draw on that battery. And the one that we were using before was 13.3 amps, and we were getting an undervoltage error on the inverter. So we went back to our trusty supplier and chatted with him a bit, and we found a lighter battery. This thing's only 35 pounds, 34.5 pounds, and it'll put out about 15.5 to 16.5 amps of draw at any given point without dropping its voltage. So it can go a little bit higher than that and give you still be able to power the inverter. However, the inverter will beep at some point here if we hammer it too hard, and it'll give us an undervolt warning just because we're trying to pull too much at one time. So I just want to show you here both these lights here. Again, Profoto D1 500 airs. That one's set at full power, as you can see, and we'll just move up here. I'll show you the other one. This one's set at full power. So we'll do a test shot here with these lights plugged in, and you'll see the recycle time on them. So over here, you see our inverter is keeping up quite nicely with this battery, just because we matched the amp pull, the amp draw, I guess, of this inverter with the two lights on there with the battery that we're using. So you see we get a little bit of a voltage drop, but this is nothing that this inverter can't take. Now with testing this specific setup with that battery that's there, again, that is it's a 55 amp hour battery, and it's a sealed lead acid deep cycle, kick it off the back of your truck, solid battery, and it's been powering this setup up to 250 cracks consecutive at full power. So that's more than enough for our shooting. And keep in mind too, with these deep cycle batteries, if you find at the end of your shoot you're running out of juice because you've been hammering it too hard, just give it 10 minutes and that battery will give some more juice, and you'll be able to get some more cracks off to finish your shoot. Might as well have just a little chat about batteries. These utility batteries, I do not recommend them. Again, this is not a setup for running one light. This is for running two 500 watt heads at full tilt. This will also support 2,000 watt heads. Thing to remember is that even though the 1,000 watt heads are twice the juice of these, they take twice as long to recycle. So your watt seconds that we told you we didn't want you to worry about earlier, that's really where it comes into play. Twice the recycle time, it's still using the same amperage draw on our inverter, and it's still going to use the same amperage draw on our battery. So with that out of the way, this battery, I don't recommend it. It doesn't have the ability to supply the burst amperage to that thing. We tested it and we got undervolting like crazy, light shut off, bad. So we upgraded to one of these guys, and yes, we're aware that we should have an inline fuse for the guys that are bitching. We're going to add one later. This is strictly our testing setup here. But these batteries here are designed to give, this one I think was 16.5 amps instantly without dropping its voltage under a certain level. Pull the data sheets on your batteries. Go to a good battery supplier, talk to them, and they'll be able to sort you out with exactly what you're after. Do the same sort of thing that I did with the amp meter. Find out exactly what your draw is. Find out exactly what you're building your setup for, and then there's no guessing on whether or not you need a 300 watt inverter or a 600 watt or 1,000 or a 2,000 or what you're trying to do. The only thing you want to remember is inverter, pure sine, don't mess around, and get a good battery. There's been some questions as to why you use a pure sine inverter as opposed to a modified. And the reason is the way that these guys use their juice. Essentially what they do is they take AC power from the wall and they convert it to DC power, and they charge capacitors inside. The problem is that in a modified sine inverter, the voltage that it puts out is a little bit lower than a pure or true sine inverter. And so what happens is that this unit can't actually convert the power over properly. They use specific voltage to charge those capacitors, and when it's basically doubled inside the unit coming in, the voltage itself for those capacitors is doubled on a modified sine wave, it's going to give you less actual voltage than the pure sine. And that's sort of where the problem comes in, and why everybody says to use the pure sine inverters. Now, there's been some cases where people have actually used these things with a modified sine inverter, and I'm not talking about the Profoto D1s, I'm just talking about Monolights in general. And some of them are tolerant to that. There's some situations where people have decided to use the Profoto units with a modified sine inverter, and the things won't even turn on. It's because of that circuit that we find in here that's converting this AC power into DC for those capacitors, which is really what drives the unit. It's the voltage multiplication that happens inside that's where the breakdown is. It has nothing to do with the circuits or dirty power or any of that other crap that's going around the internet. It is simply the bridge rectifier, the conversion from AC to DC, the end voltage on a modified inverter, a modified sine wave inverter, is going to come out less than a true sine inverter. That's it. So that's pretty much how we put together this remote power pack. It's going to go into a Pelican case with wheels so that we can wheel it around. Take it out into the field. It's going to stay dry, not going to have any issues. Ventilation is going to be important as well. I'll follow up to the movie that we just made here and let you know kind of how much heat this thing's putting out, and whether or not we have to make any modifications to the case that we're going to use. The goal here is to have the remote that turns the unit on and off that I showed you in a previous section of the video. The idea is to have that mounted on the outside of the Pelican case, and then be able to use that to control the unit without having to open it up. If you have anything to add, any questions, you want to build your own and you're having some trouble, go ahead and post some comments, and if you see anything wrong with this setup, go ahead and let us know. At the end of the day, have some good luck with it. It's performing the way that we expect it to, with the exception of adding some midline fusing and that sort of stuff. So once we get that stuff up and we get everything kind of built together, we'll do a follow-up video and we'll show everybody kind of how it works, maybe for some outdoor shoots.